Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. My respected brothers and sisters, I just wanted to give a quick reminder during this month of Ramadan. And two things I wanted to talk about is about Prophet ﷺ's mercy and rahmah, and also the characteristics of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, which made them very honorable people. So there's a lot to cover. So inshallah, I just wanted to start by saying that Rasulullah ﷺ is someone who is the greatest role model that any one of us could actually ever live up to. And when we look at the life of the Prophet ﷺ, he's a person who did not desire that he should be the ruler of something. He wasn't searching for wealth. He wasn't searching for power. He wasn't searching for honor. He was doing everything in his life just to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Rasulullah ﷺ and says, In huwa illa wahyun yuha, that the Prophet ﷺ only speaks from what the wahi has given him. He doesn't do anything out of his own accord, and he doesn't disobey Allah in any way. And you can just imagine that the Prophet ﷺ was an illiterate person, and he got so much blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the Quran to be revealed upon him. And when you look at what a literary marvel it is, you would not expect that this is actually going to come from a person who is illiterate. He would not have the knowledge of the poetry. He would not actually have the power of speech like other people would. So you can imagine that a person he doesn't have like great grades or anything like that, and imagine that he starts suddenly getting like amazing scores on like his thing on his like essay papers, and then people might think, okay, you plagiarized this, just because they don't expect people to do this way and they don't have the level of training, or that doesn't seem like your typical handwriting. When people read your work long enough, you can kind of tell like who writes in what way or what style. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the Prophet ﷺ illiterate for a reason, that there's no excuse actually for this, that for the Quran to be revealed. It wasn't the work of a poet, it wasn't the work of a kahin, it was the direct speech of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet ﷺ has the ultimate ethos. He's the person who is the best role model and the best character that any person could actually strive up and live to. And I just wanted to just touch on a couple of things. My brother talked last week about the depression and mood and everything. And I want to talk about even the Quran. It highlights the Prophet ﷺ's pained expressions and the Prophet ﷺ's pained experiences, and how he himself was sad as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Kahf, فَلَعَلَّكَ بَاخِيُ نَفْسَكَ عَلَىٰ آثَارِهِمْ إِن لَمْ يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ أَسَفًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comments that he tells the Prophet, oh Rasulullah, perhaps you're going to die out of grief and sorrow because they're not listening to you. So you can imagine the Prophet ﷺ, he's the one who only wants to take care of mankind. He has no other desire in this world. He doesn't want to search for anything else. He's not asking for anything. Everyone knows the story where the Prophet ﷺ said, even if you put the sun in my right hand, the moon in my left, I would never give this message for anything. So you can imagine how, transparent he is, how he's not a liar, he's not Majnun, he's nothing like they say he is, and just how disappointing it was that so many people wouldn't listen to the Prophet ﷺ, and how so many people wouldn't give him their time, or they say all these bad things about him. What hurtful comments they said about the Prophet ﷺ. You can imagine just how sad it must be for him. So what it also says, لَقَدْ جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ عَزِيزٌ عَلَيْكُمْ مَا عَنِتُّمْ حَرِيصٌ عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ رَءُوفٌ رَحِيمٌ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that, look, I've sent upon you a prophet from amongst your own self. He speaks your own language. And just how troubled is he with all this burden that he has, and how he's full of mercy and rahmah to his believers. So the Prophet ﷺ, my dear respected brothers and sisters, he only wanted to look at what was good for us. He didn't even want to dole out the punishments. This isn't something he even wanted to do. There's actually a story where Abdullah ibn Maqsood, I believe, Abdullah ibn Masud, I'm sorry. The Prophet ﷺ ordered him to read the Quran to him. And you can imagine how nervous Abdullah must be, that the Prophet ﷺ is the greatest of all human beings, the one who Quran was revealed upon, and now he's asking Abdullah ibn Masud to recite to him. And what does Abdullah ibn Masud recite? He recites Surah Nisa, and he keeps reading and reading up to the point where he says, فكيف إذا جئناك بكل أمة بشهيد وجئنا بك على هؤلاء شهيدا. And the Prophet ﷺ was taken aback, just so affected by this verse and ayah, that Allah is speaking to the Prophet ﷺ, second person. It caused the Prophet ﷺ to cry so much that the Prophet ﷺ said, please just stop. And what is the meaning of this ayah? فَكَيْفَ إِذَا جِئْنَاكَ بِكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ بِشَهِيدٍ وَجِئْنَا بِكَ عَلَى هَؤُلَاءِ شَهِيدًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, how will it be on that day when we resurrect, call a witness to each nation, and you, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, will be called as a witness against his own nation. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was brought to tears by this because he didn't want to do this job, in the sense that, like, he wanted the best for his ummah, but he doesn't want to be on the testifying bench against his ummah. He doesn't want to have that responsibility that he has to testify against them. This hurt him so much, it just affected him. And you can imagine that he wants all of his ummah to go to Jannah. On Day of Judgment, every single person's going to say, nafsi, nafsi. Me, that's it. We don't care. It doesn't matter how great our mother did, all the khidmat she did for us. She made all the, keema in the morning for seri, and made all the samosas and pakoras and rafsa for iftar. On that Day of Judgment, we're going to be so afraid of our own lack of good deeds. We're just not going to give the time of day to our own mother, our own father. And we're going to say, nafsi, nafsi. Prophet ﷺ is the only person on that Day of Judgment. He's going to say, ummati, ummati. He's going to say, my ummah, my ummah. That it was his biggest concern. So you can imagine, just from this brief examples, there's millions more to go of, that the Prophet ﷺ, this was attracted his followers towards him, that no one could say a bad thing about him if they really wanted to. Abu Sufyan came and he met the Byzantine Herakl, the Byzantine Caesar at the time, and the Herakl asked him all these questions. I don't want to get too into the details, but he was asking him, like, what's the lineage of this man that you call a prophet? And he said, well, he comes from a good, respectable family. And Herakl asked him, who follows him, the poor people or the rich people? And Abu Sufyan said, yes, he was not a Muslim at this time. So Abu Sufyan, he was still honest, and he told, yes, the poor people mostly followed. And Herakl said, yes, that's the general trend of what prophets used to be. And Abu Sufyan, in spite of all this, he wanted to find an opportunity to lie about the prophet. But instead, he said, I did not want to be branded as a liar at the end of the day. So there's a level of honor that he had as well, even before Islamic times, or before he became a Muslim, I should say, that even after all this questioning, he knew that as much as he wanted to say something bad or discredit the prophet, there really was nothing he could actually find. So inshallah, I just wanted to talk very briefly about some of the great Sahaba, and also how some of them are mentioned in the Quran and some of their characteristics as well. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in Surah Hashr about the Ansar and how grateful they were and how gracious they were to host the Muhajir, and how the Muhajir had basically nothing and the Ansar gave them their wealth. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيُؤْثِرُونَ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ وَلَوْ كَانَ بِهِمْ خَصَاصَةٌ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says they preferred other people over themselves, even though poverty was their lot. So my dear respected brothers and sisters, we all should try to give to the Ummah, to all the people who are suffering in this world. But even when we give to these people, our sacrifice is not going to be the same as the person who is suffering and in need and still is giving to people. So you can imagine that the Sahaba Ikram, they were in a position, they didn't have as much wealth, they didn't have as much sustenance, but they gave what they could, because that's how much they respected the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hukum, and also his amr, and the Rasulullah sallallahu. The Sahaba also had another quality about them that was great, and that was they would avoid jealousy as well. And the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith that jealousy is basically, it will ruin your good deeds like the fire consumes the wood, the close meaning of hadith. And also in Surah Hashr as well, it talks about how the companions would say, who make dua, that they would say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, please don't put any enmity in our hearts between our fellow believers. And that's something it's really amazing, because so many Muslims, we have a problem with other Muslims as well. We see someone else and we wonder, how come we didn't get that benefit, or how come we didn't get that ni'mah or blessing? And some people, after a wedding happens, this happens, where people go up and say that, how come your daughter got married and my daughter didn't get married? SubhanAllah, no one is talking about the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave to them as well. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put so much rizq in our own lives as well. So the companions of the Prophet were successful because they didn't have jealousy between one another. They didn't have nafra, they didn't have hatred towards one another. They always thought that if someone had something good, they could always wish Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can give me the same, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say mashallah, that they got something as well. If we have jealousy in our hearts, we're never going to prosper. We'll never be happy. We'll always find something to be upset about. If you look at the Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, how was his family separated? They were separated by acts of jealousy. Jealousy ripped apart their family. That the brothers of Yusuf, they had this perceived idea that Yaqub alayhi salam only likes Yusuf, and if they get rid of Yusuf, then Yaqub, their father, will approve of them. So this level of jealousy, it warps your thinking. It will make you. It actually, if you think about it, jealousy is arguing against the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's arguing against the rizq Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave someone else. So if you are being jealous of someone, you're actually having a problem with how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appropriated his rizq to that person. So hopefully, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives tawfiq and doesn't make us jealous, makes us like the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Another example of why the Prophet ﷺ's companions were successful is because when all nations who came before the prophets, they said, Sami'na wa amsayna. They said, we hear and we disobey you. But the Prophet ﷺ's companion said, Sami'na wa atana, we hear and we obey you. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with them and they are pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are happy whatever amr, whatever command, whatever hardship that befalls them, they are happy, they're content as long as their Lord is happy with them. If their Lord is unhappy with them, then they feel like there's a problem, then they feel like there's a trouble. One other description of the Sahaba, or really just good people in general, are mu'min, but something we can keep in account is that when a mu'min does something wrong in their life, they will feel the weight of that sin. It will bother them, it will perturb them in a way. It will feel like Mount Uhud is on their shoulders, according to Hadith. But a person who doesn't care, who has no worry, who doesn't care about how he is for his sins or his deeds and sins are as annoying as like a fly. Just okay, it comes and buzzes in your ear once in a while. You hit it, you go, it goes away. That's it. You carry on with your daily task. But that person who has something and he feels that I did something wrong, I need to do tawbah, he's going to feel that weight on his shoulders, that albatross around his neck, so to speak. Old Man in the Sea reference. So Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner reference. I'm sorry, before my brother comes and corrects me. But the thing is that if we look at the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they were successful for lots of reasons. But one of the greatest things as well is that they didn't have this type of they weren't superficial people. They always were looking for how to get the greatest reward, and they'd find it in circumstances that other people may not find as particularly how should I say it, dazzling. It's not something very ostentatious. They would their idea of having a protecting people was Umar radiallahu anhu, being the Amir al-Mu'mineen. He would be patrolling the streets of Medina, and he would be looking for people who needed some sustenance or needed some food, because that was on him, because he understood that his responsibility, his amana as being the governor, was to look after every single one of his subjects. And the amount of fear and taqwa he had in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was he was worried that perhaps on the road to Iraq, that there may be an unpaved part of the road, and that may cause an inconvenience for a donkey to trip over, and that could cause, that would be disastrous for the owner. So Umar radiallahu anhu would always think about these situations and how he could improve his life and how he could make, how he could correct something and how he could be of service to other people. I wanted to end with one very last hadith of Umar radiallahu anhu while we're on the subject. Umar radiallahu anhu one time was walking in the marketplace, and he heard a person make a special kind of dua he's never heard before. And this person was saying, Allahumma ja'alni min al-qalil. Oh Allah, make us of the few. And Umar radiallahu anhu asked, what is this dua? I've never heard this dua before. And why are you saying, Allah, make us from the few? And the person said that if you look, close meaning, paraphrasing everything, But if you look at the people who were the few, they were the successful people. The people who were the majority were not the successful people. So the people of the few are the ones who followed the prophets, the people who got on the who obeyed Nuh alayhi salam, who obeyed Musa alayhi salam. These were the few. So always try to strive to be the few. Be like the Sahaba, be like Rasulullah sallam. Sahaba is example for us because we are not prophets, but Rasulullah sallam was Siraj. He was a lamp, and he was a lamp that wanted to give light to the entire mankind. You and I have a responsibility to carry that light and be like the Sahaba and follow the footsteps of the Prophet sallam. Inshallah, may Allah give us tawfiq. Thank you all for tuning in. Jazakallah khairan.